This next section is really useful, so let's get right into it. This is section 6.3. The I can statement is I can understand and use unit rates. These are going to be called unit rates, and you'll see why in just a few minutes. So here's the warm-up question. It says write a ratio for each situation, and then just a reminder that labels are really important. And on this particular one it says do not reduce. Okay, we usually do reduce them. We write them in simplest form, kind of like we're reducing fractions and stuff. But on these ones I don't want you to reduce. So it says Braden traveled 219 miles in 3 hours. So again, we kind of want to think about which one do we put on top, which one do we put on the bottom. Do we want to do miles per hour, or do we want to do hours per mile? Probably miles per hour. So let's do 219 over 3. And I'm going to put MI as an abbreviation for miles here, and I'm going to put HR as an abbreviation for hours there. I'm going to put a dotted circle around that for the time being because we are going to come back to this. So we're just going to leave it like that. And then this one says Maddie traveled 385 miles in 5 hours. So 385 miles in 5 hours. And again, because it said don't reduce it, or don't simplify, we're just going to leave it like that. Okay? So again, just a reminder of what a rate is. A rate is a ratio that's used to compare different quantities and measures. And some examples of these, and we've seen quite a few of these so far, would be things like miles per hour, dollars per gallon, or the cost of an item. This is how much how many I got for this price, or different things like that. So there are lots of places where we use rates and ratios. So again, we're talking about unit rates today. And here's the problem with writing a rate like the ones in the warm-up question. It makes it really difficult because look at this right here. I mean, your first question would be, okay, Braden went this far in this amount of time, Maddie went this far in this amount of time. Your first question would be, well, who went faster? And the tough part about writing ratios the way we did up there is it makes it difficult to make comparisons. So we'll write comparisons right there. Now, what we're going to talk about today is called a unit rate. So let's go ahead and write the word unit right here. So a unit rate describes how many of the first quantity, or the thing on the top, corresponds to exactly 1 unit of the second quantity, or the one on the bottom. So I'll say that again. A unit rate describes how many of the first quantity, or whatever we're going to put on the top, corresponds to exactly 1 unit of the second quantity, or the thing that we're going to put on the bottom. So I'm going to go with something like this. What if somebody said, how fast were you going? We usually don't say something like I went 150 miles in 2 hours. We automatically take something, especially as easy as these numbers are right here, we automatically do this. We change it into a unit rate, and we do this without even knowing it. Some of you, when I said this, probably already have this figured out. So I'm going to put 150 miles on the top, and I'm going to put 2 hours on the bottom. And this is what most people do naturally. You'd look at that and say, well, I don't want to know how fast or how many miles I went in 2 hours. What I want to know is how many I went in 1 hour. So we're going to have 1 hour on the bottom, and then we're going to simplify this. So we're going to do 150 divided by 2, so that's going to be 75 mi. So 75 miles in 1 hour, or we could say 75, we could do mph, that's an abbreviation for miles per hour. Either one of those would be okay. Now let's take a look at these warm-up questions again. So this one right here, it was 219 miles in 3 hours. That's what Braden did. Well, if you throw that into a calculator, you're going to end up with this. If we simplify it, it's 73 miles on the top. 3 goes into 219 73 times, and then 3 goes into 3 once, so there would be 1 hour on the bottom. So what this means is 73 miles per 1 hour, or in 1 hour. So that's probably the best way to think of that. And this one right here, if we do 385 divided by 5, you're going to end up with 77 miles on the top and 1 hour on the bottom. Now what this does for us is if we look at these two warm-up questions, and then this one right here, Now you can look at these and say, okay, we've got somebody that went 219 miles in 3 hours, somebody that went 385 miles in 5 hours, and somebody that went 150 miles in 2 hours. Even though they traveled for different amounts of time and a different distance for each one of them, by putting each one of these as a unit rate, or in other words, putting it over 1 in each one of these, we end up with something that makes it really easy to compare. So we can do these comparisons that we're talking about. So Braden went 73 miles an hour, Maddie went 77 miles per hour, and it says, let's see, I went, so this is how fast I was going, 75 miles per hour. So it looks like Maddie was going the fastest. All right, so we're going to come down here and we're going to write a unit rate for each one of these situations. And you're going to see why these are really useful. So on this one it says Riley did 200 sit-ups in 4 minutes. That's a lot. So let's see, should we do minutes per sit-up or sit-ups per minute? Sit-ups per minute probably sounds better. So we're going to do 200 over 4. And then what we don't want is we don't want this to be a 4. We want this to be a unit rate. So the number on the bottom has to be a 1. So 4 goes in here once, and 4 goes in here 50 times. Now don't forget, these labels are important. So this was sit-ups and this was minutes. So there's our answer right there. There's our unit rate, because it's 50 sit-ups in 1 minute, or 50 sit-ups per minute. Now I kind of would like you to have that 1 right there, because it kind of reminds us what we're looking for. We are comparing everything to 1 unit in the denominator. That's what's going to make it easy to compare. So when we were doing these comparisons right here, the fact that we were figuring out how far each one of them could go in 1 hour, that's what made the comparison easy. So on this one, it's 50 sit-ups per minute. This one says Lily bought 3 pairs of shoes for $121. Again, spend some time thinking about this. We could do pairs on top and dollars on the bottom, so that would be pairs per dollar. Or we could do dollars on the top and pairs on the bottom, so that would be dollars per pair. If you're buying shoes, it probably is a better idea to put the dollars on the top, so this would be $121 on the top and 3 pairs on the bottom. And if we were comparing it from one store to the other, or say your friend went to a different store and they got a good deal on shoes, if we were going to make a comparison, we'd want to actually compare, well, how much was it per shoe? So on this right here, we're going to throw this in the calculator. 3 goes in here once, so this would be 1 pair, and then 121 divided by 3. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out the calculator and throw this in there. Let's see what we get here. So this would be 121 divided by 3. So let's see, we get 40.333. Now remember, this is dollars, so this is going to be 40. This would be 33. We wouldn't have enough to round that up. So this is $40.33 per pair. Okay, and then you could make a comparison. If a friend of yours got a pair of shoes for 45, you got a better deal. If another friend got a pair of shoes for $28 a pair, they got the better deal. So remember, we call it a unit rate because we're always comparing the top to 1 unit on the bottom. And again, this is really the key idea. This is why we use unit rates. Unit rates are useful because they make comparisons easy. Okay, so comparisons are easy if we write them as a unit rate. And there are a couple other things that we're going to do this year that are kind of related to this. So writing this as a unit rate and coming up with comparisons, really useful thing. And we'll do something in a couple units that has kind of a similar property, making things easy to compare. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a couple of examples to kind of illustrate how we can make comparisons really easily if we're writing things as a unit rate. So different gas purchases are represented in the table below. Write the unit rate for each line. So 4 gallons of gas are purchased for $8.56, 7 for $14.98, 9 for $19.26. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to find the unit rate, so we can do some work here and then write the label over here. So we're going to do 856 divided by 4. Now if you throw that into the calculator, let's go ahead and do that. 8.56 divided by 4, we end up with 214. Now remember, this was dollars on the top and gallons on the bottom, so this is going to be $2.14 per 1 gallon. Okay, So there's our answer on that one. So I'm going to go ahead and set this up. This is 14.98 divided by 7. If you throw that in the calculator, oddly enough, you get $2.14, 14 cents per gallon. 7 divided by 7 would be 1, and then 14.98 divided by 7 is 2.14. Okay, and then this one would be 1926 divided by 9. If you check that, you're going to end up with $2.14 per gallon. So what you can see now is, even though these were different amounts of gasoline and different purchase prices and that sort of thing, now that we have them written as a unit rate, we can see that it was $2.14 a gallon, no matter whether they got 4 gallons, 7 gallons, or 9 gallons. And that's the type of comparison that are easy with unit rates, because each one of them compares the price to 1 gallon of gasoline. So let's take a look at this one. A printer purchased boxes of copy paper. Write the unit rate for each line. So 10 boxes for $2.99, so we're going to do $2.99 divided by 10. If you throw that into a calculator, you're going to end up with $29 and 9.9 cents. So this is going to be 0.90. So that's $29.90. So make sure you put the 0 there, and that's per box. Whoops, per box. So there we go there. 15 boxes for $442.50. So $442.50. We're going to go ahead and carry out the division. Again, throw that in your calculator. You're going to end up with, it's going to be $29.50 per box. Again, make sure you have the 0 there. And then 25 boxes for $703.75. So again, when we set up the ratio, or set up the rate if you wanted to think of it that way, we're going to go ahead and simplify this. We're going to see how many times 25 goes into this. We're going to end up with, this is $28.15 per box. Now, just like up above, we had 3 different purchases, different amounts in this category, different prices in this category. Really hard to compare in either situation, but this one, they all turned out to be the same. This one, it turns out that this one right here is actually the best deal. And this is kind of the idea behind a volume discount. If you go to Costco or go someplace where they have bulk items and different things like that, the more you buy, generally you get a better price per unit, so per box in this particular case.